system.
Yeah.
Ron Paul has served 20 years in Congress, but he will receive nothing as retirement because he says, I'm not here for myself. I'm here not to increase the size of government, nor their obligation. I'm here to cut the size of government. If you think government's too big, then your candidate is Ron Paul.
That's right!
Folks, I just have to tell you, I've been in the Republican Party since the 70s, and I make no apology for that. I was proud to stand beside men like Ronald Reagan to face down their enemy and to stand for what's right. Ronald Reagan campaigned on a platform and built the Republican Party on a belief that we're going to cut the size of government. He said, we're not going to be the world policeman anymore. It's time we quit thinking we have to solve the problems of the world. I believe that message 25 years ago, and I still believe it today, and that's why I'm standing here to endorse Ron Paul for president. With a Democratic Party going in the wrong direction every turn. We see a ship that's headed full blast in the wrong direction. Well, what is our alternative? I fear that our alternative is a Republican Party that's without any direction. It's adrift at sea. We have candidates who are bragging about the fact that they supported universal health care when they were governor of their state. That's not Reagan Republicanism.
That's right.
Anywhere around the world. Send our troops, send foreign aid. It's time we meddle with the world's problems. Ronald Reagan, and yes, in 2000, George Bush campaigned on the platform that we're going to bring our troops home, that we're going to solve the Monroe, we're going to stick by the Monroe Doctrine and the Western Hemisphere. If you still believe what we've advocated for years, your candidate is Ron Paul.
That's right!
Mystics of Madison Avenue to spread his message. He couldn't abide it because he feels too deeply, and he knows too well what to believe and what obligates him to do. To borrow from Adlai Stevenson, Ron Paul's patriotism is the steady and tranquil devotion of a lifetime, and I'm honored to introduce and encourage you to support Ron Paul. These are true strange times. We have to look hard for someone we can truly admire. But we found one among ourselves of such great character and learning that we must act as patriots who would show ourselves to the world, who are by now so great, how good a man we are willing to follow, even if the guy doesn't have a $400 haircut or sounds like he's born to be on television.
Yeah.
We found a man that we can support with all of our hearts. We want to elevate Ron Paul to the White House. He's a man that we can point to our children and say, here's a real patriot in the sense of Patrick Henry, of George Washington, of John C. Calhoun, and all the great individuals who fought for liberty in this conscience, in this continent. A few weeks ago, my son and I spent some wonderful time with some wonderful Christian friends in the British Isles. We had a wonderful fellowship, and they were wonderful individuals, and I've said wonderful enough. I hope you get the message. These individuals talked about their dream of a restored British Empire. They talked about their dream of a government that supported them from cradle to grave. And I began to think about our American forebears. I began to think about individuals who've landed here without any promise of a job and without any promise of any social underpinnings from government. I thought about individuals who cleared stumps and who fought out and cleared themselves away that they might build an humble log cabin, that they might fend for themselves. And I said, that's the American dream. Free enterprise, liberty, independence, not national interdependence on a United Nations, but independence. Someday I intend to die. Because, like Dr. Ron Paul says, I have accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior. I intend to go to heaven in that day. And on that day, I want to see Patrick Henry. And I want to see George Washington. And I want to see John C. Calhoun. And say, that which you fought for is that which we still stand for in this land. This cause is too great and this land is too wonderful to ever try to bend or compromise those principles. There is one way that I know that I can make a statement to bring the adrift Republican Party back to principles. And that is by voting today February 5th primary for the most principled